All righty, what is up, everyone? Like I say every week, it says that it is live, so I will do an exercise in trust, and I will take its word for it. Happy Saturday, July 26th. If you're watching this at 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, you're watching this live. And if you watch this at another time on your own convenience, my hope is that you find some value from this talk. And a couple things about myself and this channel before we get started here today. It is a live stream, so you can see I could, add comments in it at any time necessary. You can ask any questions you have at any time. And my name is Param. We do this frequently. Sometimes the pickleball season gets in the way of me being able to be here on Saturdays, but there's no tournament today. And for what it's worth, last week I did get a bronze medal in a pickleball tournament. So that was a well-earned day off. But I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I'm licensed as an advanced alcohol and drug counselor. I teach community college at Saddleback College in Mission Viejo, California. I got one class assigned to me this upcoming semester called The Physiological Effects of Drugs and Alcohol. We should see how that goes. I've been coaching high school basketball for the past 17 years, and I've been in and around the recovery space since June 13th of 2008, which is a really, really long time. So my hope is that my personal experience, my professional experience, my education is enough to give you the desire to listen to a few things that we have to share on this station and to maybe even pass it on to someone who you think might benefit from its content. So like I said earlier, it's pretty much educational, but it's interactive. So each week we cover various topics, things like, addictions, mental illness, trauma, grief, loss, communication, setting boundaries, rebuilding trust, and personal development. How you can go from where you are in life to where you want to get in life. And so there's a little bit of something for everybody. And thank you for the congratulations about the medal. And mom and dad, good to see you. Number one supporter since day one. With 41 years of this journey of supporting. It's a long time. So some of you know that July 28th, we are starting the launch of an adolescent track at Buckeye Recovery Network. Now, I believe our first intake is scheduled for August 6th, but we put it together and hopefully we're ready to start taking adolescents. And it's something that myself and the entire team is very excited for because there is a significant need in our community for good quality adolescent care. And I personally believe that is one of the hardest age groups of life because there is so much happening at such rapid speed when it comes to individuals going through, like learning about their identity and who they are, going through things like puberty, going through things like individualization and trying to find out their own likes, their own needs, their own preferences. All the things that come with peer pressure and social influences, anything that comes with academia and the pressures of learning and individuals having different learning styles and family dynamics and the impact that it has on the upbringing of a child. So the talk that we have today lined up for you is a little bit in line with the launch of the program, but it also has to do with something that all of us, whether you're an adolescent or not, are going to be able to relate with. And the talk is, how does adolescent development impact adult behavior? So when it comes to these kind of things, especially the further you go back in the development of psychology and you go back into the development of people's thoughts and beliefs towards human development, there is an old school of thought that says, hey, if it happened then and there, it doesn't matter. Everybody's got something that happens to them. It doesn't matter. Just get up, be strong, and do what you got to do. Now, that's one school of thought. The other one says that human development is on a continuum and it's a lifespan and it constantly is building on the previous stage and it is developing and evolving from that previous state into whatever it's becoming. So it's saying that what happened yesterday and yesteryears impacts who I am today and who I will be tomorrow. Now, in a natural, healthy evolution, maybe that's a good thing. But for a lot of human beings that go through the challenge of life and the things that happen or do not happen to them growing up, all of a sudden there starts to be some effects that happen that are based on the development during adolescence that are showing up in adulthood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 10 different components, key areas on how adolescent development impacts adult behavior. And you could be the judge to see if what happened when you were 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old has a part in who you are today. I will let you know that personally, I believe that not only does it have a part, it has a significant part, but it's a free country and you can agree to disagree if you choose to. But let's listen to the whole talk first and maybe we can go from there. So the first one that we have here, it says the teenage brain is still under construction. So what I mean by this is the human brain is developing pretty much until they say we're in our mid-20s, we'll call it. Let's just go with the number 25. If you're ever curious to know why insurance companies significantly drop the rate of insurance around that time, is because science has shown that the brain has developed fully and the prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO, the executive, the decision maker, the one that looks at consequences, that part of the judgment of the brain is developed. So people are less likely to be reckless behind the wheel. And maybe that's why the same reason that car companies rent cars to people of that age. But mid-25 is when the brain naturally reaches its full development. However, that does not put in play things like substance abuse at a very young age. You know, some of the clients that we have at places like Buckeye Recovery Network say they started drinking and drugging when they were 12, 13, 14 years old. You know, what kind of impact does that have on the brain? That natural development of the brain does not include things like traumatic life events that people go through, potentially abuse, potentially domestic violence, potentially traumatic car accidents, potentially neglect, not having anyone around to stimulate that mind. And when you look at it that way, if you're an adult and you experience those type of situations in life growing up, circumstances, maybe growing up, maybe now as an adult, you have problems with things like impulsivity. Maybe you have problems with things like emotional regulation. And if that's the case, it's not just because you can't, you don't want to do it. Maybe the part of the brain that really supports you in doing so is not fully developed there. Now, that's where things like processing the past experiences and really being able to heal from some of those experiences matter, because I'm a big believer of something called brain plasticity, and the brain has a really regenerative and a very powerful process of healing. And sometimes even medication might be necessary for being able to impact and influence those parts of the brain in which are there lacking. But the brain, the impact that adolescence has on the brain will show up in adulthood. Again, you can believe that, or if you want, that's up to you. But science has proven otherwise. So the next one is your identity is built, not found. So during adolescence, one of the search for an identity is one of the central themes and central developmental tasks for an adolescent. So you really want to think about how through self-exploration and through and the negative effects of what happens with that process is kind of like stifled, or it's blown up. So to get a better understanding of it, when you look at a child in pre-adolescence, their world is pretty much their parents' world. I mean, call it what it is. So whether you have two parents, whether you have one parent, whether you have grandparents, whatever it is that are raising you, they're your world. They're like the end all be all. It's there aren't that many outside relationships outside of family developed yet, especially before you go to school. And as you go to school, it starts to get a little bit blended. But when it gets to like junior high, really, all of a sudden the clothes that mom or dad would want to buy you for back to school, they're not cool anymore. I don't want to wear that, Mom. I want to wear this, because you start to see what other people are wearing. All of a sudden, the music that you would listen to in the car with your parents growing up that you liked and the whole family would sing, guess what? Oh, it's not cool anymore. You got to have your headphones on and listen to your own music. And all of a sudden, doing something with a family on a Friday or Saturday, all of a sudden isn't cool because all the friends are going bowling or they're going to the mall or doing whatever. So kids are trying to find that identity for themselves, and they're trying to build it for themselves. It's not something that exists in the ether. And if you have a childhood that's really unhealthy and it's really dysfunctional, it makes it even harder to be able to create that identity because you're going against an uphill battle. Because whatever you don't have, the kids like start rebelling and acting out at a young age, and their identity becomes like the kid that's a bad kid or a troublemaker. It has less to do with what they just kind of like fell into and more to what's happening at home that's making them act out into being that, right? So it's very important to realize that the identity that you have right now, like some of you might identify with being a super funny person that cracks humor at everything and doesn't take anything seriously. Some of you might be the rebel or the person that's always getting in trouble or breaking laws. Some of you might be the super loving, over-the-top codependent that does everything for everybody else, and you take such pride in doing so. Some of you might be the workaholic that works so hard because you want to make sure that society sees you as a hard worker. You see, you might think that you're choosing these roles as an adult, but if you really got down and got honest with yourself and you look back at your past life experiences as an adolescent, you'll see that you chose that identity as a result of the things that were happening to you. For example, a stand-up comedian, the best ones in the world of all time, do a little search, go look at their autobiographies. They come from the most effed up childhoods. And they chose humor as their identity. Nothing wrong with that. They chose humor as an identity. And the reason why they didn't choose that themselves. It was just because it was a coping skill that they were good at. And it's really important for you to see what it was that you chose. And the next one that we have here is beliefs formed in adolescence shape our worldview. So what is our worldview? Well, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about others, and the way you think about the world. People live in a hostile world, loving people live in a loving world. It's the same world. Go figure. How do we have these different worldviews? Well, because things happen to us. If you come from a world of conflict and volatility and dysfunction, the world is hostile. It's a dangerous place. And if you come from a world that's loving and supporting and empowering and nurturing, you live in a loving world. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the world that shaped your worldview. If you were constantly criticized and bashed on and negative things were said to you or abused, you feel like you are not enough. You feel like you are dumb. You feel like you're stupid. You feel like you're not worthy of love. If you come from a world that people supported you and people spent time with you and they invested in you, you feel like you are worthy of love, that you are enough, that you don't need to be a certain something to have value. It's not because you chose those things, it's because the world gave it to you. And if you come from anything that creates who you are in the moment right now, you got to believe that some of this stuff's connected. Do you really think that you can come from a really effed up childhood and all of a sudden have a lot of like love and faith and belief in yourself and humanity in the world? If you do, you've done a lot of work on yourself. Because left to your own devices, the hostile world exists. So our worldview is something that's really important, and they stay locked in, like they really stay locked in until, guess what? Until you revisit them, until you start to question them, until you start to say, why do I view myself this way? Why do I view others this way? Why do I view the world this way? And when you go back and you do a little deep root cause analysis, and you go back to the origin of these thoughts and beliefs and this perspective, you might realize that, wow, I am holding on to something that a 13-year-old created. I am holding on to something that a 16-year-old wounded self created. And that's the way I live life day by day. I wake up in the morning and I see the world through the eyes of a hurt 16-year-old. I get in relationships and I view the relationship as a hurt 16-year-old. And it's up to you if that's how you want to go about it. And there's nothing like anything connected to our emotions that brings out that side of us. If you've ever like acted like an adolescent when you're a grown adult, wondering why am I acting out like this way? It's because you go right back to what it was that shaped that in the first place. Now, the next one that we have here, Oh, I didn't put this up. So the next one was identity is built, not found. The third one was beliefs formed in adolescence shape the worldview. Number 4, emotional patterns begin early. So I want you to think of how you dealt with disappointment, how you dealt with shame, how you dealt with fear, how you dealt with anger as an adolescent. Let's just pick one of these and let's go with fear. Did you get overwhelmed by fear? Did you run away from fear? Did you avoid fear? Did you try to cope or mask fear with things like substances, relationships, being someone you're not, leaving your values, overcompensating? If you did all those things, now as an adult, when you face fear, when you're anxious, worried, afraid of a something or someone or an outcome, do you think that all of a sudden, without doing the work, that you sit there with confidence and you look at the situation for what it is and you have a strategy in which you're going to address your fear and you're going to walk through it one hard moment at a time until you get to the other side and conquer that fear? Do you really think that's how it works? If you ran from it, hid from it, avoided it, numbed it as an adolescent, and you don't do the work, as an adult, you will run from it, hide from it, avoid it, numb it. How do I know this? Well, when you do 10, 15 years of therapy with people and they come in the office and they say, hey, one of the biggest fears I have is this. One of the biggest fears I have is this. We're run by 1,000 different forms of fear. And you ask them, well, why are you in therapy? They say it's because, I hide from it. I run from it. I avoid it. I've been using substances. I cope with it in negative ways. I self-harm. I self-destruct. I self-sabotage. I eat bad food. I gamble. It's like, see, if you never learn how to deal with these emotional patterns as an adolescent, you won't be able to deal with them as an adult. This is why relationships go bad. This is why people can't stay consistent in life in different areas. But when you learn how to deal with things like disappointment and just to address your shame of like how you feel about yourself and who you are and all that kind of stuff, and deal with fear and deal with anger. I mean, anger is one of those things that it's such a loud and scary emotion that a lot of people have a effed up relationship with it. I know it's something that I always work on because I have a really weird relationship with anger. And, you can't avoid the damn thing. You can't run from anger. You can't act like it's not happening. Because if you bottle it in and bottle it in and bottle it in and bottle it in, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what happens with it. It's going to blow up. It's going to blow up and it's going to explode all over your whole world and your whole life. Right? So I want you to be aware of your emotional patterns and see where you stand with those kind of things. Now, the next one that I have here is your coping skills. They are learned during adolescence or they are not. So how did you cope as a teen? You gotta really think about it. Were they healthy or unhealthy? Hopefully, you had enough self resilience and you had enough modeling of healthy coping skills around you, and people communicated with you when you were stressed out or feeling overwhelmed, that you were able to stay strong and maintain those healthy coping skills growing up. But a lot of people never learned it. And why do they not learn it, by the way? This is not to put blame on the generation before, but maybe, just maybe, their parents or their guardians or their grandparents or whoever's raising them, maybe they never learned it in the first place. So they can't give something they don't have. I mean, if you say, hey, give me $100, and I put my hand in my pocket and I don't have $100, I can't give you $100. So if you want a coping skill from a parent and they put their hand in their pocket and try to give you a coping skill, but they don't have one, what are they going to give you? Well, they're going to give you their own dysfunctional coping skills. They're going to give you the overspending or the using substances or the overeating or the running away from problems. They're going to give you whatever the heck they got. And if you ever wonder, like, how, let's just say growing up, there's domestic violence in your house. Okay. Like you're sitting in your room and your mom and dad are, this stuff's breaking, cops are coming, and you swear to yourself that when I grow up, I will never do that. I will never be that. I'll never have my child feel that. And now you're an adult and you're stressed out. You got a significant other, you got a kid, and you're yelling and you're screaming at each other. You're fighting over something like financial or the bills or the in-laws or something. And all of a sudden you grab something, you throw it against the wall, and it shatters and the kid's scared. And you say, oh my God, how the heck did I just do what it was that I was so scared of, that I hated and resented so much? It's because we become wired with the things we see. You know how, Buckeye Recovery Network is a mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse treatment facility that a lot of people come in. You have no idea how many individuals say that they had parents that were, dysfunctional families, or they had substance abuse issues. Sometimes even their parents died of addiction, like an overdose, and they watched it. And the amount of hatred they had towards drugs for taking their loved one was so significant. And here they are, addicted to the same drug that killed their loved one. And if you think that just happens because it's like it was a choice that was made, man, I'm telling you, we get wired that way. That was the coping skill that they showed their family that they use when they feel the same feelings, the universal feelings, when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're afraid, when they're angry. It's patterns repeat themselves, my friends, until the individual who does those patterns say, this is not the way I'm going to live my life. I can give you the best talks in the world, and unfortunately, until you say, I don't want to live this pattern, you're going to continue the same pattern. By the way, you don't even have to be a drug addict or alcoholic to understand this. If you've been trying to change something in your life for the past 5 years, 10 years, and you can't do it, you really think that sitting and listening to talk of me talking about motivation or the desire to change, all that all of a sudden you're like, okay, I got it now. You'll get motivated for about 15 minutes. And as soon as life gets back in your way, you forget everything that you heard. Because motivation is something that comes significantly from the inside. And it says that I will not live the way that I've been living. And then transformative power happens. Jim, Tony, what's up, guys? Good to see you guys here. We're talking about adolescence and how it impacts us later on in life. So what do we got next? We got peer influences and belonging shape self-worth. Self-worth is a powerful thing because human beings are inherently worth something. Even though in our current society, our worth comes from the things we do and the accomplishments we have and, the activity, the achievements. But we're worth something. Now, adolescents get their self-worth from the world that they live in, which is their peers and their influences. So when they get rejected from a social group or peers, their self-worth is fragile. So it really puts a dent into it. And when they get outcast or alienated from people, or they feel different than the ones around them, it's a very profound impact that they have about who they think they are and the value that they have. And by the way, when peer pressure, we've all heard about the terminology peer pressure is like you do what's against your moral fiber, your fabric, your kind of like your upbringing, even though you know that you know different, even though that you were taught different, even though in that moment you just say, you know what? These people around me validating me and accepting me is more important than the things that I know to be right and true. You know how powerful that is? That you know in your head that the actions you're about to take are not good, they're not right, you've been taught better, you know better, yet despite of all that, you do it anyways. That's how important peer influence and social belonging is pertinent and kind of a part of the developmental stage as a teenager. Now, if that stage doesn't get created well, your self-worth later on in life is going to be fractured. So you might get into relationships that are below your values and below your standards and below what you know is to be good. People, let's just call it what it is, might treat you like shit, and you put up with it. And maybe the same thing carries on with work. You're in a job or a career that, they don't support you. You're just a number. You don't mean anything, but you put up with it. And that's the thing about self-worth is when we realize that, hey, I don't have to abandon my thoughts and beliefs and my values for the world to accept me because I accept me for who I am. And during adolescence, if this stuff's not taught to them, by left to our own natural kind of tendencies, we do what the environment wants us to do. So the next one that I have here is family dynamics leave a lasting blueprint. So what some people do is they say, you know what, childhood was the way it was. My parents did the best they could. It is what it is. And here's the thing. You can say that my parents did the best they could with what they knew at the time, and I'm grateful for that. You could say that and mean that and stand in that truth. But you can also say, and it effed me up, or and it really impacted me negatively, and it was something that was very tough to deal with in real time, and sometimes I still struggle with it now. It doesn't have to be that my parents did the best they could, so I should be okay. What if you're not? What if it messed you up? And you can't say, like, my parents were so bad and this and that. Like, you not have any empathy for why they were the way they were, because they were the way they were. You're going to drive yourself nuts wanting people to be different than they were in the past. You know how weird that is? Some people come and they hold on to these lifelong resentments against their parents for how they were in the past, and they want them or wanted them to be different than the way they were in the past. I mean, that literally is impossible. So all you can do is accept it and then work on the negative consequences that are resulted from that experience. You know, I use that word and in between instead of the word or. It's a very powerful thing. So there's a form of therapy called DBT, and it really tries to say that not everything is black and white. You know, something can be something and it can be something else. Like, you can love someone and you can be mad at them. It's not you can love someone or you can be mad at them. You know, the and is very powerful. And it's a distinction that really helps when it comes to dysfunctional families. Like, you can say, my mom really loved me and she really didn't show up for me in X, Y, and Z times in my life. It's okay. Right? Like, people aren't who they don't have to be a specific way, and they can't be another way. We're so complex, we're so versatile, we're so evolving that we can be many different forms. And yeah, acceptance is the key, my man. Yeah, it really is. You know, maybe I'll read Acceptance is the Answer for All My Problems today in one of these talks for those who have never been exposed to it. So the next one says, attachment and relationships set the standard. Things like trust, things like love, things like safety, future intimacy, commitment, boundaries, all of these things that we know are human needs as adults, and yet so many of us don't have them in life right now, if you're an adult, or you're seeking desperately to find it. And sometimes you feel like you don't even deserve those things. You know what? I'm telling you, if you didn't feel safe growing up within your own home, within your own world, if you didn't have trust in your own world, you know, abandonment, people saying they're going to do something, not doing it, people screwing you over. If you didn't have any type of intimacy, and I'm not talking about physical, adult intimacy, I'm talking about like closeness, connection, bonding. If you didn't have any type of commitment, people weren't committed to, people were leaving, people were just, their word didn't mean anything. If there's no boundaries, if it was just dysfunction growing up, you will have a life in which that you do not feel safe in, that you do not trust anyone in, that you are not intimate to anyone, that you lack commitment, and boundaries will not be prevalent in your life. And if you think that stuff didn't matter, if you didn't have it, now you have all those things, you either did a shit ton of work on yourself, or you just don't want to acknowledge the fact that that was tough and it's impacting you right now. I've yet to see another way, and I hope one day I do, that someone says everything that happened to me in my childhood was very devastating and hard, and it has no impact on my adulthood. Well, I guess those people won't even show up to therapy, right? Because why would they? Their lives are perfect. So the next one says, unmet needs in adolescence can lead to overcompensation. So we have needs. We have needs for love. We have needs for safety, security, all that kind of stuff. If you didn't get those, Now you might overcompensate with work, with giving, with seeking constant validation, wanting the world to kind of give you your approval, the stamp that you're okay. And if you ever catch yourself in that world of like overcompensating, I really want you to pause and say, why am I overcompensating? And just know that you are setting yourself up for being resentful, because when you overcompensate, no one can match that energy. No one can reciprocate back what it is that you're giving. And when they don't, you will be left pissed off and resentful because they did not do what it was that you do out of your own overcompensation. And the last one that I have here is unhealed teen wounds show up in adult triggers. So every week in this talk, I share a quote with you that I will share one more time, so we're at least 5,000 times deep. And it says, if you do not heal from your past wounds, you will bleed all over people who did not cut you. Let's say it again without making a mistake. If you do not heal from your past wounds, you will bleed all over people who did not cut you. And you have a choice. Address those wounds, as painful as some of them might be. Mend them, sew them, heal them. It might leave a little scar, but it's okay. Scars are beautiful. Scars tell a story. Scars show resiliency, and they show perseverance, and they show the damage sometimes, good, bad, and different, that life may or may not have had on us. But wrap that up, because there's wonderful human beings that are going to come in your life. Platonic, romantic, work, social. And you have an opportunity to create these new lasting relationships with these people. But if you don't heal from the old ones, you're going to miss out the opportunity, and you're going to end up being alone. And even if you're not alone, you're going to feel alone, which is even worse. So my hope is that today's talk kind of turned a few of you on to the realization that our adolescent development directly influences our adult behavior. Again, we're starting an adolescent program here at Buckeye Recovery Network next week. I'm so excited for it. Going to be reaching out to some of the local high schools, going to be reaching out to some of the local resources to put the word out there. If any of you know any adolescents between the ages of 13 and 17 that are going through something in life, it doesn't have to be something too traumatic, but why not try to help them develop appropriately during this time of their life? So maybe one day when they're adults later on down the line, they are spared the pain that some of us have to go through in life, and they're able to do more with their energy and their resources than they potentially would have been able to do. So all that being said, I love and appreciate all of you. My 33 minutes is up. I'll see you back next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.